Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ruff is with me, and I'm delighted to say former Hearts and Kilmarnock striker Gary Wales is here with us as well to talk football, with the Edinburgh derby looming at Easter Road on Sunday. So certainly we'll get the thoughts of Gary on the state of play in Edinburgh and who he thinks is going to come out on top, although I'll lay odds that he won't be picking the same team as you, Ruffy. And the good news is, Ruffy, it's always good to get special guests in. With Jim Patterson in on Tuesday, looked as if he still trained a bit, but Gary's let himself go, hasn't he? you can still be playing.
Oh well, we'll see. Well, I put a penalty away. I think you were mentioning a couple of weeks ago at Lockie's testimonial, and I tried to get a contract there, but it wasn't happening.
What about your kids? They must have been so proud of you when they saw you do that.
Aye, it was just the pressure was on. You know, when they're watching, you think, I've tucked it away nicely, so still got it.
Top.
Yeah, you were telling me,
postage stamp.
Great night as well, a great day, and a great attendance as well.
Absolutely. Lockie's one of those guys, he deserves a testimonial, doesn't he?
Brilliant. Yeah, what a servant for Hearts.
Absolutely fantastic. Lots to talk about, guys. We'll get your thoughts on it, and don't forget, if you hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, then you'll get all the notifications of our unique video content. So much happening this season on PLZ Soccer, European football as well to look forward to, and of course if you download the app, it's got all the breaking stories across the UK and European and world football too, so hopefully you'll enjoy all that. First and foremost, we're going to find out a wee bit about what Gary is up to now, because there is life after football, as Ruffy will agree to as well. But Dundee United against AZ Alkmaar tonight is a game I'm looking forward to, Ruffy. I'm going to go up to Tannadice to see this United side. It's look at the.
No, I'm just as soon as you said that we played Dundee at the weekend there, you better leave a couple of hours early, because the traffic up there is horrendous. There's roadworks everywhere, all the way up to Dundee.
Well, that's really put me on a downer. Thanks for that, Robbie. Dundee United against AZ Alkmaar. Listen, all the managers are making changes. Robbie Nielsen's doing it at Hearts. Everybody's trying to get players in. I'm looking at United. Not a bad start for them. I think Ian Harkes will probably be holding his hand up in the dressing room and saying, OK, if I hadn't get sent off, maybe United could have started with a win in the Premiership.
Well, there's no doubt about that. I think they've got a difficult tie tonight. You know, Dutch football's very highly regarded. You know, they're not going to come here and lie down. So I just thought, I think they need to get a win. Nothing short of a win and going over there would be any good, because I think they've got a wee bit of quality. And again, our teams are just starting off. So it'd be interesting to see what his team selection is.
Yeah, well, I mean, the one thing that Jack Ross has mentioned is they're not there. They don't want to be there to make up the numbers, Gary, because if anything, over the last few years, out with Celtic and Rangers, especially Rangers, who've done really well, the rest of the clubs have been poor.
I know, and I think this is a good year to kick all that off. I think I totally agree with Ruffy. I think they've got to come out, be positive, get something out of it. The Dutch, you know, they're so technically gifted, and no matter what team you pick from these leagues, I mean, they're gifted from that height, you know, so it'll be tough, but yeah, wish them all the best.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to see United do well. Of course, when you look at the players who are in their lineup, I mean, along with Tony Asghar, who I know very well, their recruitment plan, their strategy ahead of the new season, albeit with Jack Ross in tow now. You've got Tony Watt in there, you've got Fletcher, you've got some old heads in there in Charlie McGrew and Ryan Edwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and that's when this is the crucial part where these guys can play their role. You know, well versed in European football, Charlie and stuff like that. So, looks like the spine of the team looks quite, you know, experienced, and hopefully Fletch and people like that can come to the fore and get the guys through.
Yeah, I think that point, picking up on what Gary said there, I think Fletcher is crucial, Ruffy. His experience in this type of game, because they can mix it up. I like Tony Watt because he's got a good first touch. He can hold it in. Fletcher, again, he can be a target man as well.
Yeah, no, I think Fletcher will bring the best out in Tony Watt. I often thought last year that Tony Watt was, you know, playing more wide, you know, than a central centre forward, you know, and a target man, and all his good work was assisting and being out wide and coming in. But now with Fletcher there, I'm sure they'll be working together, possibly a wee bit closer. But I think the two of them will be a danger for anybody.
Yeah, it doesn't matter about his age. Even when he came back into the Scotland side, Gary, I mean, as you know yourself, playing up front, if you've got someone like Fletcher who not only, you know, is a good first touch, but he's got that brilliant sense of where a defender is, and he can just feel them and then just lay that ball and bring midfield into it.
Yeah, and it's a point of difference. You know, a lot of football now is made of, you know, being the perfect athlete, being fast and agile, but that physical presence is great. And you know, like you say, he's just clever. He feels where things are, and you can bring other people into the game. And he's done it in different leagues, so I think it'll be crucial to the success of Dundee United.
Yeah, who was the best player you played with for that type of thing? For
holding it up and things like that. I mean, I did play with Mark de Vries, who, you know, everyone kind of thought he was just a bit of an animal, so he probably brought a lot of people into the game like that. But yeah, most other people I played with were very similar actually to me, but Big Mark was an obvious standout there.
Yeah, absolutely. And just in case Mark's family's watching, we didn't know that you were known as a big animal, but nevertheless. Gary's let the cat out of the bag, but he was a real fearsome figure when I watched him play for the Jambos. The other thing about this, Ruffy, games are not won now with a starting 11. It's a supporting cast, the likes of a Glenn Middleton, who's come in at Dundee United on a contract, so suddenly he's got roots there now to try and prove a point to people. And Nicky Clark, I always think, is always good for a goal. Yeah,
I think Middleton's the kind of player we always say they're looking for a club to settle down in. You know, he's been all over the place. He's been, you know, not settled. A wee bit like Tony Watt for a while, you know, as well. So, no, sometimes these players go to a team like that and it just kicks off and it's a new start for them. But certainly Jack Ross has identified players that he saw or worked with, you know, in the time, you know, and he sees the strengths of them, and that's why he's brought them there.
Yeah, here's what the Dundee United manager had to say about the game tonight. It's a crucial one for them. The fact we've drawn such an attractive tie, allied to the fact it's grabbed the attention of supporters so much in terms of the crowd that will be in attendance, means that there's that air of excitement around it. It's a tie we're very much looking forward to, but ultimately for us, players and staff, it's about progression, while for others there will be that sense of occasion. For us, it's got to be business. We want to stay in Europe for as long as possible. I think it's a tie we view as a challenging one, but one we believe we can progress through. The message has been there for the players consistently while we're playing against a good team. It's certainly not unachievable for us to progress through this round. And of course, lying in wait, Riga or Gil Vicente, I would put my money on the likes of Gil Vicente being the team that they may well face, Ruffy. But I look at Dundee United and Hearts and I think this could be this season where, you know, one, hopefully two, suddenly are in group stage European football, because the money for them, it could change the whole season for them. Yeah,
every year's been a disappointment for us, for these teams, you know, that are coming into the European competition, and we keep harping on about this coefficient, and we've just seen the success of Rangers and Celtic, what it's done to the teams underneath. So it's time for them to come up with the goods. It's time for them to get some points in this coefficient board so that other teams lower down can get the benefit in the years ahead.
Yeah, Hugh Scott says, Peter, I think Dundee United will do well this season. A good manager in Jack Ross. Hopefully they get a good result tonight. John Marshall, good luck to Jack Ross. He deserved longer at Easter Road. You always think, you know, even as a player, but as a manager, if you look at, you know, any setback, losing your job, you always want to try and prove the point, especially if you're at a club where there's a settled board and there's a wee bit of money to spend.
Yeah, I think it's this. Sometimes, like, it's kind of touching on what Ruffy said earlier there, sometimes you just will go to a club that fits you, and I've just got a funny feeling that it's going to be the right fit for Jack Ross, this club. The recruitment's been brilliant, and if he does get a wee bit more time, I think he will be a success.
Yeah, we've all been picking who we think's going to win the league, who we think's going to finish second and third, and of course getting it in the neck as we do that, Ruffy, and who we think's going to be relegated. It's early, it's guesswork. Who would you pick to win the league?
Well, I mean, I'd probably say it's obviously Celtic that can only lose it. I think, you know, on paper it looks like that, and you know, some would contest that with the success Rangers had last season, but as we know, things didn't go so well this week. So if it were me and I was a betting man, I would probably say Celtic have got probably the best chance of retaining.
And everybody talks about the third force, and I think Hearts really are in the box seat. If they get group stage, I think, you know, it's the type of thing where I'm budging that board and all the fans would say, well, listen, push the boat out a wee bit, maybe get a couple of extra players and make sure nobody gets near us for third place. Do you share that view, or do you see a team that could maybe threaten them this season?
I think Hearts are not finished with recruiting. I think, hearing what I'm hearing behind the doors, I think they're trying to get one or two bodies in still, and that's because the signings this season have been great so far, and even the way they've prepared, Peter. Robbie's been preparing them with 2 games a week type thing, and almost doing everything very similar to how you would progress in the group stages and stuff. So I think they've got the right mentality towards all this, and I don't know. I think it maybe be too early to actually try and separate. And whilst there's a soundbite coming out of Tynecastle that's the ambition, which is brilliant by the way to hear it and refreshing. This year it might be just too soon, but I think they're on the right direction. Yeah,
absolutely. I get that feeling as well. Only after the second half had finished, I have to tell you. We'll talk about that in a minute. But thanks to so many people who are, if you want to obviously put a question to Gary, by all means, we've got a feed of people talking about who they think's going to win. Sean Ross says Dundee United to win. So with that in mind, Ruffy, this is a tough one to call. This is my first time this season having a look at Dundee United, so I'm going to be optimistic and say 2-1 United.
Well, I think we all hope that. I've already said it needs to be a win. I don't think they can go over there with a draw. They need to stamp their authority on the game. Who knows? The tradition at Dundee United is fantastic for the Dundee United fans of an older age. The history's there that this team should do well in Europe. And you would hope that's maybe a wee spin-off and a wee lift to everybody. The stadium will be jam-packed. And
Sturrock and Hegarty are dropping them.
Yeah, I know. No, I know, but sometimes when you've got a history in Europe and the fans buy into it, you've got to hope the players buy into it as well, and it'll be a tremendous occasion for everybody on that park.
Yeah. I know. Well, what's the score?
I hope they win 2-0.
2-0, yeah. It's a sellout, Gary, which gives you an indication of the real appetite United fans have for this.
Yeah, I think that sense of occasion is the fans will be a crucial part to tonight. I think, honestly, but I think Dutch, I think they will score, and it's just getting a win, getting over there with a win will be crucial. Honestly, don't know how they'll set up, but. Yeah, even if it's scraping a 1-0, then brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed. I just get a sneaky feeling like you that the Dutch side might actually score. They gave Celtic a torrid time, obviously, in that European game, Ruffy. So fingers crossed that Jack Ross and Dundee United can get a win. I'll be at that game and we'll get the thoughts of Jack Ross and digest them all tomorrow on the programme. Ruffy and Tam McManus will be with us to discuss it. So that's the Europa Conference. I've got to get your thoughts on Hearts, because they know exactly what's facing them. Tonight will be good for Hearts management. I'm sure there'll be a scout, maybe even Robbie himself, watching FC Zurich against Linfield. And I think everybody's looking and thinking, well, how strong are Linfield? Can they cause an upset? Everybody would possibly expect maybe going to Switzerland.
Yeah, on paper it looks like that, but again, anything can happen, and if you ask the fans, they'd probably rather jump over to Belfast than watch the game, but it's hard to see past Zurich. But yeah, Robbie will be over there, and I'm sure he'll be filling up the notepads. Yeah,
what do you make of Hearts then this season? Because I was going there to Tynecastle at the weekend, full of anticipation, packed as ever, season tickets sold out, a real feeling. The pitch was great, Nick, as you would expect at Tynecastle. And the first half, I thought they get played off the park.
They did, I thought. And I think you were saying, obviously Hearts never performed so well, but I also think Ross County were very well organised. Yeah. Their two banks were just settled, and they just kept playing everything over the top, turning Hearts, and they could have had a couple of goals in the first half.
What about the number 7, Edwards?
Yeah, he was a real threat. Yeah, so he got people off their seat, but. I think he came off with an injury, didn't he?
Yeah. So no, the manager turned around and gave it that classic line, I took him off because he was knackered.
All right. Well, I don't think the fans would be happy with that, because he was really turning things around there. But I think it was a game of two halves, and Hearts performed a bit better in the second half, and a couple of bits of individual brilliance got them over the line.
Yeah, I like Forrest. He looks as if he could be a real impact player for Hearts.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities with him and his brother, isn't there?
Yeah.
So it's exciting, and Hearts, that's what Hearts have got, with Barry Mackay as well, so they can definitely hurt people on the break, and I think that's what might happen on Sunday.
I think that's the only thing that's going to hinder Hearts. There's an expectation now that the other third team, so there'll be players that get into games now with a wee bit of pressure.
Yeah.
That they've got to win the home games, because everybody's expecting it, and that's something, for a lot of them haven't really experienced, so that'll be something they'll have to get their heads around, because I do think they're the third team. I know we're saying Aberdeen are going to improve and Hibs are going to improve, but if Hearts keep buying, the quality they're buying, I think they'll be third.
Yeah, just on that point, I think Jacob Davenport is one of the players they've got on trial, and there's been all sorts of speculation this week about the South Korean international Lee Sung-woo that they're looking at to try and bolster that squad as well. So, and of course Hibs will be looking to try and get Martin Boyle back. I think it's one of those deals that might take a couple of weeks to get it over the line, but it looks as if he could be heading back to Easter Road.
Well, that would be, from our point of view, at the other side of the city, it's not the kind of type of signing you want to see, but the Hibs fans will be delighted with that. Didn't want to let him go, of course. It's a money move there, but to get him back, that would be an absolute brilliant signing for them. Yeah,
even at Easter Road though, Gary, I look at the two squads and I think Hearts go into it as favourites.
Yeah, fans will play a big role in new signings. How do they handle the pressure? Lots of things, come into contention, but on paper, I think, the starting 11s, you would think that Hearts can get it over the line, but yeah, it's just all about how they handle that pressure on the day.
Yeah, what's your record in derbies?
Not bad, I have to say. Yeah, I wouldn't know this. I wouldn't know the stats, but
have you sampled a victory?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, there's one more than Ruffy.
Yeah,
he's in how many?
16 derbies, drew 9 and lost 6.
Is that right?
Never won a game.
Yeah, no, that's 15.
I don't know what happened. The other one, Robbo must have scored.
Yeah, not a good record, but they're brilliant games to play in. I mean, did you find yourself overly nervous, caught up in it because of the city and the way the whole thing buzzes, or was there someone there that said to you, this is what to expect, and was a calming influence?
Yeah, you've got your skippers and your vice captains that are kind of like, taming it down. It's the build up, it's the week's build up, everyone in the city talking about it. You just want it out of the way, really. As soon as you're on the pitch, it feels different. It's actually a place where you can relax, believe it or not. That's how I've always pictured it anyway. But no, I didn't find that side of things too nerving.
Yeah, and of the team that you watched on Saturday, if there is a match winner, if there's someone that you think can turn it in Hearts' favour, who is it?
I think that's the difference now with Hearts, is there used to only be one dependent person that you would turn to.
Yeah.
Back in my era, like maybe people like Colin Cameron could be the match winner or whatever, but I think it comes from every direction, particularly the signings we've made. If Alan Forrest starts, Barry Mackay, as they've contributed on Saturday, Shankland could be he might enjoy the big occasion, might get us a goal or two. So, and the boy George Grant as well, he came on,
looked all right, didn't he?
I think the fans were kind of like, quite happy with what they've seen there. So he's in contention for starting, of course. So I think he can come from a number of places.
Yeah,
I think in my era when we played, and I think it was Kano that used to say it, and it shouldn't be the case. I mean, everybody wants to win a derby, but it seemed to matter more to the Edinburgh boys. Mm-hmm. It seemed to matter to the guys who were brought up as kids as Hibs or Hearts supporters, and when you went into the games, you could see they were the ones that were hurting more than the other. And I know things have changed and there's foreign players come into all the teams and that now, but I still think it means a lot to the home base guys, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Give us your prediction and why.
Well, I mean, it's hard to say because you don't know the starting lineup, but people like, hopefully Kingsley is available. Hibs fans will be fully aware of what he can bring, set pieces and free kicks, headers and free kicks. So it could be one of these where maybe Hearts, flood the midfield and maybe get a couple of breaks and win that way. But again, it's all down to how well they start. If Hibs came out and done, play as well as Ross County and take their chances, it's a hard uphill battle. But I think it might just be one of these scrappy ones to start with, and then might get one or two picking some holes and getting some goals for teams. But I'm hopeful it's maybe just something like maybe 1-0, 2-0 Hearts.
Yeah, okay. It's a game I'm really looking forward to. Always like the Edinburgh derby, Ruffy. Over and above that, we're going to talk Celtic Rangers. We will indeed talk about Paul Lambert and Motherwell as well. SAOT. I'm going to just mention that to you, Ruffy, and hope you can work out what it is. What do you think is going to happen in the Edinburgh derby? Here's the odds on this one. Ruffy, 13-8, 7-4 Hearts, first goal scorer Doidge or Melkerson, 5-1 and 11-2 respectively. And I would give you the Hearts ones, but it looks as if it's the same two Hibs players. But I would slight mistake.
4-0 up already.
Slight mistake on the graphic. 2-1 the draw. But I would suggest to you that I think what Gary was talking about, I think the midfield is where Hearts have got something that little bit extra and goals in it too, with Mackay and the aforementioned Forrest.
Yeah, I would go with they've got strengths in two departments. I think up front, I think they've got more match winners than Hibs, and they've also got a better goalkeeper than Hibs. And generally, in these games when it's so tight, Craig Gordon comes up with something a bit special. But I think Forrest, Shankland, Boyce, there's goals there, and Hibs in a bit drought now, obviously with Nisbet being out, so it's a tough one. Derby games can swing either way. These things can happen in games, but it's on the day. If you're looking at the paper, Hearts are the favourites. I think the only reason that they've got them equal is because Hibs are at home. Yeah,
and John Marshall has just said, with regards to that graphic, it's a sign, Hibs to win. That's one way. Shankland and Forrest were the two that were obviously clear favourites to get the goals, but we shall wait and see exactly what's going to unfold. Sometimes it's just that stroke of genius, or dare I say it, a mistake that can actually get you to the point where you think, I'm not going out for the entire weekend. If you have a mistake in a derby, Ruffy, you just want to go into a darkened room and start thumping yourself.
Well, I stayed there in Gifford, which was a good half hour outside there. I remember playing a Hibs Hearts game and it was nothing each, and I thought we were going to win it, and Robbo scored in the last minute, and I was so upset that I actually never changed. I walked out the dressing room and jumped. My car park was right next to where we changed, and I walked out with all my gear on, boots and everything, jumped in the car. And left. I just couldn't handle it. It got so bad that we couldn't beat them at all, and it was beginning to hurt.
And that's today's competition. Which one of the 27 goals that Robbo scored was he talking about? What a record from the wee man. He was
him and Sandy Clark, it was little and large, it was just... And Gary Mackay, I would take Gary Mackay into that. He was a wee bit special. And then John Cahoon, he became a bit of a thorn as well.
Hold on a minute, you just go through the entire team?
No, I'm just trying to remember all the ones that hurt us. But
the funny thing was, and this I'll never forget, it was at Easter Road as well, Ruffy. I was commentating for Radio 4th, and it was at the tail end of John's career, and Jim Jeffries was obviously using him sparingly, much to the annoyance of Robbo, who wants to play every game. And I think, if my memory serves me correct, I think Hibs were winning 2-1. It was snowing, sleet, the pitch was soaking, and there was only about, I kid you not, Roffy, there must have been about 3 minutes to go. And I started laughing because he throws Robbo and he says to him, on you go. And I think this was Robbo's last derby goal. He walked onto the pitch. Hearts had a free kick about 23, 24 yards out, and the wee man just stepped up, curled it over the wall into the roof of the net, and that was it. And away he went on his usual run. Yeah,
okay, it was like Joe Harper. You knew if there was a shot and you made a decent save. If you never held on to it, the wee man was there. He was always in the vicinity, to just tap it in. And as I said to you the other day, that annoying giggle whenever he scored.
Yeah, absolutely. Who was your toughest opponent especially in a derby match? Was there somebody that gave you a torrid time, or somebody that you loved the battle with?
I wouldn't. No, I don't think. I was always quite relishing playing up against people in derby days. So I didn't ever have anyone that I thought, oh, I'd stand away from him or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was usually other defenders maybe that were tougher, and obviously the Old Firm, your Bobo Baldys and your Amorusos and all that. They probably put up a better fight.
Were you able to speak to them? I mean, I often ask Tam McManus in here, he didn't speak too much to Bobo Baldy because he says he tried everything he could to get as far away from him as possible.
Very clumsy player. Let's just say a very clumsy player. No, there wasn't much. My French isn't that good, so you'd speak after the match, but not on there. You know what it's like.
Yeah, you're clued up.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Edinburgh Derby, give us your thoughts on that. The fallout from the Rangers performance, Ruffy, continues. I have to say, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has come out and mentioned the fact that, for the return leg, which is huge, that they'll be looking to Morelos, hopefully back there, Kent in the lineup. I still think they can turn it around, but it's going to be nip and tuck, making sure that the Belgians don't score.
Yeah, I mean, anybody getting into the game, you're 2-0 down, the away goal isn't there anymore. You know what's demand. You need to score in the first 15 minutes. The longer the game goes, the more apprehensive you get, the more nervous you get, the more the crowd gets. So Rangers have done it last year. They've came out in these games and got that early goal, whether it's Tavernier or a penalty or a free kick or whatever. So that's the way they'll be hoping. I'm a wee bit anxious of him throwing him into that game. He can't be match fit. I mean, I've seen him at Murray Park when we played them. Partick Thistle played him, and he didn't look fit at all.
Yeah.
Not compared to all the other players. We know all the other players now. They're pristine, man. They're actually.
Yeah.
I mean, they're so sharp and everything. I don't think you can go into the games if you've not got match fitness. And but maybe they've been working on him. I think Ryan Kent's a better option.
Yeah.
I think Ryan Kent can get people off their seat. He can do something a wee bit special and bring people into the game.
Yeah, I actually think Kent could go another level again. He's got the ability, he's got tricks, and he needs to work harder on the delivery. And he can score a goal as well, Gary. Maybe I'm just expecting too much from him, but I think somebody should be saying to him, listen, these games, this platform, like Europe last year, go out there and show people what you can do. Yeah,
I think you're spot on in saying that, Peter. I think that personally as well. I think he probably can step up. I don't know if he's his own pressure that he's putting on himself, but like you say, you could be getting advised by your agent. Listen, there's a higher level here to go if you want to go, and it's yours for the taking. But when he faces up to people, you're right, he can go left or right, and he can perform on the day, beat anyone on the day. But it's the finished article, that cross, that if we can get a higher percentage in them. A lot of football now is based on stats.
Yeah.
So that's what people are probably looking at and saying, what's the percentage of completed crosses, etc. And that's just the way the game's going now. And if the stats start creeping up, you might find he gets a bigger move, although the Rangers fans won't want to hear that.
No, absolutely not. But this is the perfect game where you want your big players to go in there and not only create, but maybe be the difference in getting a goal that suddenly brings you right back into the tie. I wonder if have you gone into a game, and Morelos is a quality player, have you gone into a game, the manager said to you, look, 80%, just go out there, we'll maybe get that 20% of adrenaline from you. There's people that are match winners that you only need them on the pitch, for X amount of time, the last 15 minutes or that, like you said earlier, but Robbo, just stepping on and you put him on away. So he's got a presence, and I think the Rangers fans want to have him back involved, like Morelos and things like that. But to be honest, I think what you're wanting to really just get out everybody's. There's so much energy into it. There's a decent squad there. So they've got options, but let's just hope they get through as well. Yeah, absolutely. Gallant says, I believe we'll have the tie level by half time. I'm not going to argue with you on it, because I just get the feeling that Rangers at Ibrox with the crowd behind them, and when you think of what they achieved last year against better sides than Union, because no disrespect to them, Ruffy, I didn't think there were any great shakes.
No, not on the night. They got the goals at the right time, you know, and then obviously the penalty at 1-0, you would definitely be sitting here saying Rangers can overturn that. But at 2-0, it depends how Rangers go at the game. You know, they're obviously got to score goals, you know, and are this team counter-attacking? Are they good at that? You know, the thing and Jim Patterson gave us the stats last year that there were, what was it, 27
14
games, and they won 14 away games in the league. That shows you they've got something away from home. So I'm sure Rangers have done the homework if they are counter-attacking, you know. But for me, it's all about Rangers and getting the goals at the right time.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, and I mean, DPG, John Curry has also mentioned that the loss of Bassey and Aribo seems to be something that a lot of Rangers fans are looking and thinking, have they been replaced?
Hard to replace them.
Yeah.
Honestly, boy, Bassey last year was phenomenal.
He came out of nowhere. He wasn't a regular at the start of the season, Gary.
I know. Whoever's headhunted him, you want him to get on with his job and get more bodies into Rangers at that level. But yeah, it's probably a fair comment. He's yet to be replaced. But as I said, it's a tough feat.
Yeah, the players that have come in are good players, but they've not proved themselves in Europe.
Yeah.
You know, Aribo and Bassey and the guys that are there have proved themselves last year. So now what you've done is you've brought quality in, but you're saying to yourself, well, are they a European standard? Are they? You have to wait and see, and time will tell.
I always think it's even more painful, Ruffy, if you see a player that you've enjoyed watching and then they go down south. I mean, Aribo scored at the weekend for Southampton. That becomes even more painful. You're thinking, look what we're missing here. Yeah. And I liked him on his left peg. I thought he had a good left peg on him.
Well, he was a European style player.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think we've seen Kamara yet. I thought Kamara last year in Europe was suited the European style of football, but he's not done it yet this year. So he might be the one, you know, that just gets Rangers through.
Yep, absolutely. Every now and then we always like to mention to people, if you are commenting on the feed, to try and make sure that you set a certain standard of decency. I'm going to read this out, Ruffy, just on the basis that I don't mind, as you know, we can take pelters. We don't mind getting battered as long as it's not abuse. And Colin Stewart says Ruffy's on Deludamol. It must have been something you said about Rangers, but to be honest with you, that's the only tablet you're not on at the moment, Ruffy.
No,
is that fair?
No, and I'd love to know what it does, because I might want to be on.
Only to take just a half of it. Just don't go full tablet. Anyway, listen, it's all about opinions. Give us your thoughts on how you think Rangers will fare in that return leg. Would you gamble on Morelos, just throw him in there at the deep end alongside Kent? Do you think Rangers can get through? That everybody talks money, Gary, and we've been talking about it yesterday. The financial implications of Rangers not making the Champions League group stages there for all to see. Celtic would get a huge windfall of the TV money if they were the only team in that Champions League. Yeah,
and I think the added pressure from last year, just, you know, that adds to this whole thing. It would financially catastrophic, but going from where you were last year to that, it would be a big dent to the actual club themselves. So you hope it's not to be, and they get themselves through.
Yeah. They want to get the money. They don't want to go down the road of selling their best players every year.
Yeah.
You know, so if you've got enough money in the bank, then you don't have to go down that road. You know, and Celtic have proved, you know, that is the road you go down initially, but when you've got the money, you keep a hold of whatever you can. So I don't think the Rangers supporters would like to see more players getting sold, no, year on year.
Yeah.
So the more money you've got, the bigger players
can hold them. Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but especially Ruffy, since we've been working at more than a few of these games, I became less enchanted with the Europa League over a period of time, because I was so used to seeing Rangers and Celtic in the Champions League, and when you see them playing at a certain standard, you wanted, you know, and I'm talking early 2000s, obviously, you want to see them in that competition. You want to hear the music, you want to see the place absolutely bouncing, and when the Champions League theme comes on, it's hairs on the back of your neck, isn't it?
But it's not only that, you've got to think of your supporters for buying the tickets and that. They want to see Milan, they want to see Real Madrid, they want to see Barcelona players, they want to see them on the television.
Yeah.
You know, they want to see them up close and personal, and when you get into the group stages, you generally get two of them. You know, two of the big sides.
Big
so,
clubs, yeah.
and that is just exciting, not only for the players but for the supporters as well.
Yeah, the amount of foreign players who've commented in coming to Scotland at Celtic Park and Ibrox, and they can't hear themselves chatting or even talking to their teammates because the noise and the relentless atmosphere in it is amazing.
You've heard it a lot with international, interviews from people all over the world, and it's like, where's the most daunting place you've played? And it's been Parkhead or Ibrox on European nights, and that's what the fans are wanting, and even as a player, like you said, Ruffy, there with two top clubs typically going into your section. As a player, that's exactly what you want to put yourself up against and see how far off am I, and it's all about measuring, and it's a win-win for everybody.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of them are kidding themselves on saying that it doesn't bother them. I mean, I don't care who you are, if you're standing there at Ibrox or standing at Parkhead and a European night and that music's on, and you're looking about and you're looking at everything that goes, you have to take it in.
Take it in.
Yeah.
You really have to take it in.
Well, there's a great interview with on social media, I think it might have been on BT Sport, with Rio Ferdinand talking about Manchester United going to Celtic Park to play in the game. This is the one Nakamura scored. And he'd already scored a similar free kick at Old Trafford, so they knew it was coming. And Van der Sar was in goal. But before the game started, they were all lined up, and Rio Ferdinand stood there, and the music came on. They couldn't, the noise was just deafening, and he just looked round at a few of his teammates and went, I'll have a bit of this. Because if you're a big player, you thrive on that. Paolo Maldini would say the same thing. Players have been there and thought, this is magnificent.
I mean, I've told you the story with me when we played Brazil over in the Maracana, and I'm standing there and there's 120,000 and I'm standing there taking it all, and you're going, I played against Dumbarton last week. 2,000 at that. So,
absolutely.
I don't care who you are, you've got to take it all in.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. You always want to see Champions League, big teams coming, big names strutting their stuff, and once they start pulling the names out in that draw, I think Celtic fans will get really excited. Now, Rangers know that PSV and Monaco shared a 1-1 draw. They've got that second leg next week as well, so there's still one more hurdle after that, Gary. But, Union, I think many of us thought Rangers would be, looking at a positive result and getting ready for Ibrox to put them out before they contemplated Monaco and PSV, but suddenly it's different.
Yeah, I think everything's all right on paper, but getting it over the line is a hard thing. But
do you think they'll do it?
Don't know.
There's a bit of uncertainty there, isn't there?
There's an uncertainty about that. Yeah. I mean, as much as I'd like to see it for Scottish football, I'm not sure. Yeah,
okay. It's all about opinions. Over and above that, as well as the European football that we can look forward to, there's lots of people talking about the managerial appointment possibly at Fir Park. I know that we've got Niall Kane, who regularly watches the show, who is interested in Motherwell. He's a big Motherwell fan. Suddenly, listen, there'll be every name that you could possibly think of. If, as Jim Patterson mentioned to us, there was 130 applications for the Albion Rovers job at one point. There's going to be that and then some for Motherwell. Simo Valakari, a former player. Paul Lambert suddenly said he'd be open to a return to Scotland to manage Motherwell. That's a good pedigree. Certainly Lambert, for me, I think Motherwell fans would embrace.
Yeah, I think they would. That he's got a track record of being up in Scotland, and I think that they'd buy into that. For me, it's all about the board. It's all about what way they're going to go. Are they going to keep it in-house with the people who have progressed through their academy and been with the reserves and worked with the staff? They know there's guys out there who could step in, or do they go for somebody out of left field? They're the only ones that can decide what way they're going to go around, and they're a fan-based club as well, so the fans have a big say as well as the board members at Motherwell.
Yeah, I think it's as much as how well Motherwell sell it to Paul Lambert as well. I think it's all very well being an applicant, but people like that, you need to paint a good picture of where's the club going.
Yeah. And the other thing about it, Gary, which we had a chat with Jim Patterson, who's coaching the under-16s, and he said, you know, there's a good batch of young players that are chapping on the door at Motherwell as well. If you've got a good structure where, and I think this is vital going forward, if you've got a good structure where suddenly you've got a youth policy, you're investing in your youth, and they can see a pathway to the first team. You know, managers always say, okay, it's the here and now. If they've got a good youth policy and then maybe a wee bit of cash, maybe that's something that Paul Lambert would say, this is a chance for me to maybe just relaunch myself.
Yeah, and ethically that sounds good for the club overall, doesn't it? And grow, you know, nurture natural talent. You have to sell them on eventually, of course, if there's a success there. But I think that's something that Paul would definitely relish. But it's a hard one, isn't it? Because the fans, it's results based as well. Yeah. So it's just getting the balance right.
Yeah, and I wonder how much money there is for a manager. I'm not suggesting there's no money there, Ruffy, because I think the board have been a wee bit cagey, saying to themselves, okay, Graham Alexander, they weren't that enamoured with him at the tail end of last season. Let's see how he starts. He's had a nightmare. So there might be that kitty being held back for a new manager, which they knew. That's my gut feeling on. I think they were looking and saying, we're going to hedge our bets here on any signings.
Well, they haven't really splashed the cash. You know, they got the money, you know, was it 3.2? And they sat on that. And they seem to like players coming through the academy. Yeah. That seems to be their model. You know, they're quite happy not to splash the cash as long as they're doing well.
Yeah.
As long as they're not down the bottom of the league, as long as they're maybe middle or breaking into the top six, and they wait and a couple of young guys coming through. But if that doesn't happen, you've got to change everything and start saying, well, maybe we have to spend money. Because there's no Scottish clubs playing money apart from Rangers and Celtic and Hearts.
Yeah, maybe the Dundee United one as well, to be honest with you, Ravi. But nevertheless, Graham Alexander lost his job. It was 4 wins in 23, stretching back to, I think, mid-January. So I think a lot of Motherwell fans had thought, you know, we've had enough. He's on a shaky peg, and beaten by Sligo Rovers just sent him over the edge. Although Graham Alexander, speaking to the League Managers Association down south, released this statement regarding his time at Motherwell. Whilst mine and Chris Lucchetti's time at Motherwell has come to an end, it's a period I will always remember fondly and be proud of what we achieved during our time in charge. When we were trusted with leading the club 18 months ago, it was a daunting challenge, bottom of the league and staring relegation in the face. The task was quite clear. Succeeding in preserving Motherwell's SPFL status with a few games to spare was so important to the club, as we knew what relegation would mean to the club and its fans. I'll always remember what we achieved together, qualifying for Europe, earning the third highest points tally and being the 4th highest scorers. And certainly, Ruffy, you know, you can flip something on its head.
As you know, and at the beginning of the season, I'm sure a manager would say, "Judge me at the end of the season." Mm-hmm. You know, and I saw at Hibs. I can't remember who the manager was at Hibs. I don't know if it was John Hughes, but they had a fantastic first half this season, and then had that nightmare second half, and he was judged. On the nightmare second half.
Well, I could judged on. Yeah, but I could flip that League Managers Association statement and say, you know, 3 weeks from now, that could be a statement that could be released by Callum Davison. I'll never forget my double cup winning side of 2 seasons ago. But right now we've lost 4 games and bang, he's out of a job.
But then he would say, I've got you in Europe. I've got Motherwell in Europe. All right, they get beat.
Yeah.
But at the beginning of the season, if you said, right, what are my targets? They would say, get in the top 6. If you can get into Europe, that would be magnificent.
Yeah.
So he gets them into Europe and fails, so you sack him.
Yeah.
You know, it just depends which way you want to work with.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's an easy spin on it, Gary. But the one thing that I mentioned it to the journalists who work for us here at PLZ, if you're going to a game, is, you know, don't let a manager spin the game to you. Don't let your eyes deceive you. Watch the game, see how it pans out. You get a full, I think if you're at a game, you get a greater sense of what the team's about, because the fans are reacting. They're reacting to a player, a style of play, the way that they've played to win a game or lose a game. And I think all of that encompasses basically a fan then putting his message across to a board. And some boards, I think, get a little bit nervy and react the wrong way, but Graham Alexander, you could tell from last season the fans were losing patience with him.
If you've not got the fans on your side, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
It's great that clubs are like that, but at the top it tends to be it's still a business, and it's just how it's seen and through the eyes of the owners, really, isn't it? I mean, ethically it's brilliant to have the fans say, and it looks like that's the way forward. Globally that would be brilliant, but I think you've got to be careful, because you still need bums on seats, you still need money churning through the door, and it's just getting that balance right.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we'll wait to see who emerges as the number one man for Motherwell. How would you feel about it if you're a Motherwell fan out there? Paul Lambert, is that something that excites you? Is there another name in there that maybe hasn't been quoted? And let's not forget, Stephen Hamill is, he's been a great servant in 2 stints at Motherwell as a player. He may well be in the box seat because he's there at the moment. Ruffy's got 1 win under his belt.
But that's what I said, it depends on which way the board's going to go down. I mean, I was part of the Partick Thistle board when we appointed our manager, and everybody has a view where they're going, and then you have to make a decision. Sometimes you make the right decision, sometimes you don't.
Did you appoint Colley?
No, I wasn't there. I'd been bumped by
No, I didn't mean that. I mean, did Ian McCall not say he was taking... Did Ian McCall not decide he was the manager? Because he seems to decide he decides everything else.
No, I wasn't there. I had the what do you call it, the consortium.
The ones that bumped you out the door.
Yeah,
he's been like a yo-yo, Gary, on the board, off the board.
But when I was on the board, I did vote for Gary Caldwell. I thought Gary Caldwell, not because of his delivery and all that, I just thought he'd looked into what the team was about and what the club was about, and he portrayed it, and everything that he said, I bought into it.
Yeah. Well, listen.
I mean, it didn't work for him in the end, but these things happen.
Yeah, and I know Ian for such a long time. He absolutely lives and breathes that job.
Oh, he loves it. He's part of the community. He's part of everything. He bought into the club right for the start. Of course, he'd been there before, and he buys into, I don't want to keep you down the road of what happened to us and all that. He really won't let it go.
Yeah,
and quite rightly so. And he's got to be in his bonnet.
You don't have to tell. Yeah. The Jambos have got a whole document on it as well.
And I think that's a good thing, And then Brian Graham came out last week and had a wee statement from a player's point of view, what happened to them. Their salaries get cut. Their family life was affected. Yeah. People don't think of these things, when they make these kind of decisions. So I wouldn't have let it go if I was a player. So we've got to focus on the future. But Colley has bought into it, and he uses that, to get us back to where we were.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. SAOT. Technology, Ruffy. Basically, I think Celtic certainly are going to become accustomed to it when they get into the Champions League group stages. It was something I think that was put forward as if it was going to happen after the World Cup as well, but it looks as if it's going to be accelerated into the Champions League matches, and basically it is semi-automated offside technology. That's what it stands for. I had to write it down for the group stages. And this is a situation where, with 10 dedicated cameras, television broadcast cameras as well, 18 data points on each individual player, and basically it's to try and get the offside spot on without making it complicated and long-winded, and the speed of the decision in the group stages of the Champions League. So, more power to them for using the technology. As long as it's quick, Gary, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what everything's going. I've said for years linesmen don't work, so for me, and what you're saying, Peter, spot on, is as long as the game's not slowed down too much, fine, but just give us it quick, preempt it quick, and let's move on. But no, I like the idea of technology being used. I know everything technology, 1 minute it's advancing, next minute it's further on. So great that we're finding that, and if we can adapt to it, then great.
Yeah, absolutely. Although, Ruffy, on the evidence of the last 48 hours, I mean, I'm still not going to be convinced by any UEFA official that was a penalty against Rangers. I mean, I just think it was a shocking decision. If anything, technology will reduce the percentage of mistakes, but it won't eradicate them. We'll still be able to go to a pub and have an argument, Ruffy, because can you imagine if the technology becomes so advanced that all the decisions are right, and you and I get into a pub and I go, what do you make of that game? And you go, you just better get me a lager and a gin because there's nothing really to talk about. Can you have a fight?
No, as Gary said, we just want it right. We just want it right. The big decisions, but this handball thing is getting out of ridiculous now. You know, everybody's interpreting it different. I think they interpret it more not equally in Europe.
Yeah.
You know, I think they have a different view of if it hits his hand, it's hit his hand, and your hand's in an unnatural position. And we spoke about it the other day. You see all the foreign teams now, the defenders just come out with their hands behind their back.
It's so unnatural.
They don't try to defend at all. They just want to say that I'm making sure this ball's not hitting my hand.
Yeah.
You know, because you don't know which way the referee's going to take it.
But that's the point, isn't it? If your arms are in an unnatural position, then that's something that they've been emphasising. The VAR will spot it if the referee hasn't spotted it already. But for me, the fact that, I mean, unless Connor Golson said something to the referee that prompted a yellow card as well, but he was so close to him. Even if his hand's in an unnatural position, he can't get out the road. And there was it wasn't as if he denied an out-and-out goal-scoring shot, you know?
But it was the same as at Mirren at the weekend when the boy had the shot and the defender's coming out. Now, he's not coming out with his hands behind his back, he's coming out like that, and the boy hits it for 10 yards. And his hand, how can you get your hand out the road? You know, if the ball's coming at you that quick?
And you know yourself, you need your arms for balance. Or, you know, if you're lunging, even you're already thinking about how you're landing, and if it hits you, it's a penalty.
It's a harsh one, isn't it? And I can't wait for the first VAR decision in an Edinburgh or Glasgow derby. It's going to be absolutely magnificent. The good thing, though, I don't know if you liked it. I mean, when I lived in Edinburgh for all those years, you were either a Jambo or a Hibby. So I mean, there wasn't this kind of a looking back into your religious past, but you know, through here it's a different kettle of fish. So God help the VAR guys who are there. I'm not for a minute suggesting that they should all be agnostics, Ruffy, but they're going to be under close scrutiny, aren't they? Who would take that job?
No one of them miles away in a room somewhere where nobody can see them.
Yeah, exactly. Who are these guys? I've heard that before. Anyway, apart from anything else, we look forward to the technology hopefully making our game better. We want it to be quicker with the decisions, as Gary mentioned there. Okay, just out of curiosity, but we've got a couple of things to talk about before we go, Gary. From your own point of view, you had a really good spell at Kilmarnock as well. Did you enjoy your time down there?
I did, and really enjoyed it. I mean, I was down in England Championship, and Jim Jeffries asked me to come back up, and because he'd taken me, I knew the manager really well from my time at Hearts, and I thought it was a natural thing to come back and rekindle with him, and loved it. Yeah, it was a great time down there. Got to the cup final in the CIS, and that was probably the best bit of success we had down there in my time. And there was a lot of good players at that time, Chris Boyd, Stephen Naismith, and so Gordon Greer, people like that moved on to other things. So no, it was good.
Yeah, Nazy was a regular pundit on the programme for the last couple of seasons. Certainly loved having him on the programme. We loved having him on the programme. Now a coach, hates losing. Great noise up. One of the best referees also I've ever seen.
Oh, really? I tell you, from day dot, you knew he was going to be in it, because he would travel with us in pre-season, and he would just be a nipper, but everything was about football with Nazy. He wouldn't get him out of his room for playing the computer, football this, football that. So I knew he was going to go on to bigger things, and he's had a great career, and we've got him at Hearts now. Yeah,
it's a good crew there as well, with Lee McCulloch too. Really good backroom staff that have been rewarded with that new deal as well. Strangely, there's life after football. You're doing a bit of property as well. Ruffy and I are thinking about buying a flat abroad. What advice would you give us? We haven't got the money for it. It's just a minor technicality.
What does the other half think about that? That's the question.
No, it's for them. Ruffy and I want to go partying again. Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, no, I mean, as you said, life after football. I spent a few years soul searching. What do you do after football? I went in and done my coaching licences as well, just to see if it was the field I wanted to stay in, but found myself getting into property, and then took it from there. Got a few businesses now, all property related.
Yeah, brilliant. We wish you the very best of luck. I know you're doing a great job there at Hearts as well. There's some great fixtures over the weekend. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing you. Will you be going to Easter Road for the derby, or will you stay in a protected area in the rest of the city?
Ruffy knows you stay in a bomb-proof facility,
as long as
if you're any affiliation to the clubs. No, you know what, I might attend, but I'll probably just be myself rather than taking the kids.
Right, okay.
Unless we get them earmuffs.
Yeah, I was just about to say to you, there is a line and an age where you actually turn around and say, okay, you can go to the derby match. I fought tooth and nail to be able to go to a derby, but it was such a long time, Ruffy, before you were deemed old enough and sensible enough to get there. Tomorrow we're going to look in detail and hear from a number of the women who will be playing and strutting their stuff in the SWPL this season. Of course, Rangers were the champions and stopped that dominance from Glasgow City, and all the captains and all the coaches were out there at Hampden today, looking forward to the start of the Women's Premier League and the other leagues this Sunday. It's certainly going to have a greater attention, women's football, that's for certain. And Glasgow City, with their coach Eileen Gleeson, has mentioned over the course of the afternoon that it's going to be unusual for Glasgow City chasing a title rather than defending it.
I mean, it was my first season here last year, but Glasgow City have been the trailblazers here for many years, and because of them, the legacy is that other clubs have had to step up and drive the standards. So, back to the first question about that level of competition, but yeah, it's a new position for the club to be in. We've done everything in our, capacity to sign new players this season, to fill in gaps where we felt we were missing last year, and to really be competing for every single title again.
Yeah, Glasgow City, 14 seasons in the trot of dominance, but now, Gary, I think over a long period of time, the women's game will just mushroom the popularity of it, especially off the back of, albeit England, it does have a ripple effect everywhere across the UK, I think.
I think so. We've seen it in other sports years past, the cycling, etc., and other things, tennis, with Andy Murray, and I think that's what's happening with, women's football as well. That success has been, as you said, it was England, but I think that will have that ripple effect, and it deserves to. Why should there be, not as many women playing football now? And I think it's obviously a national sport that hopefully grows arms and legs, and I think it's a good time to market that, and hopefully a lot of people take it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get it into all the schools.
Yeah, I think that's the key element that's been mentioned, getting girls the platform at school to have a dedicated weekly time in PE where they can play football as well. And then, you reap the rewards of that. I mean, the Celtic manager, Fran Alonso, has mentioned that, the game over the next few years, it will explode in popularity.
Now there are more professional teams, massive investment. I work in the past with some players professionally, and now they are at Hearts or they are at Hibs, and so much more competition, which is great for the league. And then I split at the end. I think that also will help. So the last games would be just with teams either from your bottom six or top six, and that again, that's exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I think there'll be a lot more focus on it in Scotland. Not that we need to worry about it, Ruffy, because for 10 years we've had lots of women on this show.
Yes, we have.
And the pundits, we've actually fed them on to other broadcasters.
Yeah, but I would not been big-headed at end, but I think we were the first people to promote the women's game.
Yeah.
I think in our shows and all our shows we gave them a good platform, and now we've got foreign managers. We've got players from the home base, playing down in England, playing abroad, Real Madrid.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and I think Partick Thistle women, they've got an easy game this weekend, haven't they? The first game.
I'm just looking at it. The games are Glasgow City will play Spartans, Hearts against Partick Thistle. So I think Partick will pump Hearts. To be honest with you, I'm just Hamilton, Aberdeen, Rangers, Glasgow Girls, Dundee United, Motherwell, and Celtic against Hibs. So some belters to start with. I don't know if you noticed there, Ruffy. We only put about 42 PLZ microphones on the table. I was so clearly our reporters need to get a grip of themselves. You only need one mic. Anyway, apart from anything else, good luck to all the girls. We'll hear from more of the captains and the coaches on tomorrow's programme, as well as, of course, discussing how Dundee United fare against AZ Alkmaar. I'm almost certain this season, Ruffy, it won't be the last time we'll see Gary through here. I managed to get his visa stamped through in time in the West. There was touch and go whether you were going to make it. That's what happens when you buy an electric car and you don't charge it. Just two boys pushing him towards the studio, Ruffy, to be honest with you. Gary, it's been a joy to speak to you. Thanks for coming in. Absolutely different class. Gary Wales, our special guest. Ruffy and myself will be back tomorrow, looking towards the weekend with Tam McManus here with us in the studio, and we'll have lots of managers and players talking about their particular games in the Scottish Premiership. Hit the subscribe button, and don't forget, if you hit the bell, you'll get all the notifications, and when you download the app, you'll get all the breaking news stories across the UK and beyond. Thanks for watching.